Hello, I'm Charles Curves, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Curves Show. In this week's episode, I explore a key aspect of your role on this planet while you are alive. You are meant to do what you see needs to be done, and nobody can see what you can see. Your unique and weird background enables you to see what others cannot see. What is it that you are meant to be doing? What contribution are you meant to be making? What problem are you meant to be solving that you can see? When you choose this path, the benefits for you are enormous. Stick around and find out what those benefits are and how you might find out what it is that you are meant to be doing. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S, self-awareness plus passion equals success. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career to become Australasia's passion provocateur, I have inspired, educated, informed, provoked audiences, individuals, to discover what they're passionate about and to pursue that passion, or many passions. It's not just one. You can be passionate about lots of things. I have written 2 key books on passion. Passionate people produce passionate performance. Both of them have had wonderful feedback from readers. If you want deeper insight into passion, consider reading those books. I have helped people in teams, in sporting teams, in big business teams, small business teams, as an executive coach for the past 28 years. What I share with you can change your life if you act on what I share with you. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So this show is constantly aimed at provoking you, informing you to examine your life, to ask these crucial questions. What am I here for? What am I meant to be doing? What is my life about? You can see I'm wearing my red jacket. Red, the color of passion. This is my brand. And I wear it so that you think of red. When you see red on the roads, on the cars, it provokes you to think about passion. Your passion. Are you pursuing your passion? Each week I share one big idea, not too many ideas, because then we're confused. We don't know what to do. With that one big idea, I share resources that will help you to implement that idea, to give you aspects of thinking about that idea. I share with you resources that I've shared with clients in one-on-one executive coaching roles that have been helpful to them, and I hope they're helpful to you. That's a joke. No, it's a quote. It's a book. It's a song title. It's a spiritual tip, a health tip, and some humor. After all, humor is the best medicine. I love jokes. As there's a saying in the professional speaking industry, people say, "Do you need to be funny?" And the guy goes, "No, only if you want to get paid." Humor works. This show is not politically correct. I have no intention to be politically correct, and I'm in favor of all sorts of addictions, including coffee. I love it. This show also subscribes to the view that we have a spiritual life. The human spirit is a wonderful, wonderful resource, and passion comes from your spirit, your soul, your heart. Oh, that coffee is so yummy. Julie is so kind to make it for me. She's a wonderful director, producer. Now, what's happened this week before we get on to the big idea? Well, I've had 2 meetings at 4 a.m. and 1 meeting at 5 a.m. over the last 7 days. So One of the things that I see needs to be done, which is what I'm going to be talking about, has involved me being in two teams of people, and because they're focused around London and Central European time, it means that meetings are at 5 a.m. and 4 a.m., which I have to say is a P in the A. Government inconsistency around the world goes on around this so-called deadly pandemic, which it's not, and the remarkable differences by government. So, as I keep saying, it's almost mind-boggling. How can any of you believe what government is telling you? I urge you to do your own thinking, to do your own research. And I urge you to understand the threats to your freedom. You see, I've done many shows on freedom. It's a crucial element, and I can't believe how people are so willing to give away their freedom. I say to you again, without freedom, you and I are just the same as animals. It is freedom that makes us human. That's why it's so important. Not free to do whatever you like, free to be who you want to be. Just in the last couple of days, the Therapeutic Goods Administration has banned ivermectin as a remedy that has been proven all around the world to be successfully used. Doctor after doctor have gone online, given testimony about how wonderful it is in treating patients. And now the TGA has taken this step. There is clearly, I accuse the government of being involved in a conspiracy. I accuse the TGA of being involved in a conspiracy. And there is steps that you can take, including calling the TGA if you are in Australia to complain about this ivermectin ban. It is an outrage. Last Sunday was Father's Day, and in the press on Monday in Australia, there were sad scenes of fathers and families at the Gold Coast border that I have driven safely across that border. Well, sorry, freely across that border since my first time I went up there in 1969. Australia continues to be fracturing into states, and the danger that poses to the Commonwealth of Australia is profound. Please, people, understand what that means. The United States is a series of states. If the game plan is to pit people against people, then that's the game that appears to be happening. It's a game against the jabbed and the unjabbed. That is a very dangerous cocktail. And so today's episode springs out of that unhealthy, dangerous mix of pitting people against people. It's called medical apartheid. It is a shocking thing to put the jabbed and the unjabbed into two different groups. Beware. I am warning you, it is dangerous. We also have the Australian Football League football finals. So on this weekend, there are the two preliminary finals which identified the two finalists, and Victoria at least has one little bit of good news, that there are two Victorian teams out of the 18 teams, of which 10 are in Victoria, 8 from the rest of Australia. There are two Victorian teams in the grand final. I remember some years ago when all these interstate teams came in, it said Victorian teams would not be able to do well. Well, this year they are. So that's pretty exciting. At least something good for Victoria, which continues to be under house arrest in Melbourne, where I live. That was once the world's most livable city. Now it's being destroyed by politicians. And during the week, I have been successfully coaching a number of clients, and it's such wonderful fun finding one insight into one problem that can make all the difference into how we experience problems, how we handle problems. It's a great joy of the work that I do. So that's been very fulfilling, whilst at the same time I have been exercising extensively every day. Why? Because exercise keeps me fit and healthy, and in my work I have to use my brain, I have to think, and our brain uses the most energy of any part of our body. So I have to look after this body so that I can keep producing this show for you. So to today's big idea. Before I get there, please visit our websites, covest.com for corporate programs, for public programs, and charlescovest.com for details of the self-awareness and passion quest. You can subscribe to Passion Points to Ponder. You can get the self-awareness and passion quest manifesto. Come and visit us. And if you have any suggestions or questions or ideas arising from this show, please email me, charles@covest.com. If you are watching this as a YouTube, please subscribe. As a podcast, please subscribe. And if you enjoy it, I'd be grateful if you shared it. Today's big idea. What is it that you see needs to be done? I learned this idea from Buckminster Fuller, a man who was awarded 47 honorary doctorates. You've heard me talk about Buckminster Fuller previously, but of course, regular listeners and viewers will know that I have to keep reminding key principles, sometimes repetitively. There's a benefit, if you've heard this before, that hearing it again is of value, but there are new listeners all the time, new viewers all the time. So that's another reason why I have to keep bringing people back and reminding them, or telling them for the first time, that might be a reminder for you. Buckminster Fuller was awarded 47 honorary doctorates. He died in 1983. Look him up. There is a Buckminster Fuller Institute. And he said, my job as a human being, your job as a human being, is to do what you see needs to be done. And nobody can see precisely what you see. Why? Because you are a weirdo. You are unique. You've heard me talk about being a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. I love coffee. Lots of things I love that make me weird. Nobody on planet Earth thinks precisely like you, and that is, therefore, why you see in unique ways, in weird ways, what needs to be done. And Bucky said, you are meant to do that. You are meant to take responsibility as a sentient being, as an amazing human being, to pursue that role, that task, that challenge, that community contribution, that problem that needs to be solved. I grew up in a family, Hungarian migrants, refugees. We had no money, and yet my parents were great contributors to their community, to the Hungarian community. And they made a significant impact, and that's what they were drawn to do. And when you do what you see needs to be done, you get enormous benefits. It builds your self-confidence. You are tapping into your soul, your spirit, your heart, your soul's journey. It gives you courage. It gives you personal power. It builds your confidence. It builds your willingness to take risks, because you see it needs to be done. You see the value that you can contribute, and not only will you get monetary benefits, you will impact on other human beings in a way that makes you feel good about yourself. I have found this in my own life. Because of the example that my parents gave me, I have contributed to many organizations without being paid for it. There are 6 charities, not-for-profits, amongst others, even more, but there are 6 that I presently am heavily involved in. You've heard me talk about the Australian Institute of Comedy. I'm on the board of the Australian Cartoon Museum. I'm a trustee of the Global Energy Network Institute. I'm the president of the Australia-Hungary Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the committee of Water Safety Vietnam, where we teach instructors how to teach kids how to stay alive in water. And I'm on the board of the Kids Foundation, an organisation that teaches kindergarten and prep children how to take sensible risks. All of those take time. All of them add value. I see that there is a need for the value that those organisations provide. So I see that needs to be done, so I participate. And I want to share today one of those initiatives, one of those not-for-profits, and that's GENIE. And GENIE stands for the Global Energy Network Institute. I'm a trustee of it. It was founded by by Peter Myson in 1986, based on the work of Buckminster Fuller. And Genie is promoting the interconnection of electricity grids around the world and the use of renewable energy. But the grids around the world can all be connected, because when you look at the Dymaxion map that Buckminster Fuller invented, all major land masses are closely linked. Now, why is that important? Because electricity is the foundational difference between rich and poor countries. You know that? Just imagine that. Electricity. Why? Because electricity enables you to harness power so you don't have to do things with your hands. There's a direct correlation between GDP of a country and electricity availability. When you have electricity, education becomes available. Being able to study at night becomes available. You get better health because you don't have to have a kerosene lamp. You don't have to burn dung to get light at night. You can get clean water. You can treat water. You can pump water from a well, so sanitation improves. It is also safer. There are safety benefits. In Africa alone, the Hunger Project quotes the fact that in Africa, 100 million women a day, on average, spend 6 hours collecting firewood and water. All that disappears. When you have electricity, you don't need as many children. Children don't die. The death rates when there's no sanitation of children is much higher than in countries with electricity. And indeed, there is a direct correlation between GDP and birth rates. As GDP goes up because of the availability of electricity, birth rates come down. And so I say to you, there is no huge population of the planet coming. It will not get anywhere near 11 billion, which has been prognosticated. We're at 8 billion now, and you look at the population growth of all wealthy countries, it's coming down. Now, within the Genie organisation, of which I'm a trustee in Australia, I came up with the idea of 10,000 for 10,000. Are you aware that in India alone there are over 300,000 villages that don't have electricity? It's amazing. 300,000 villages. And the 10,000 for 10,000 project is designed to solve that problem. And what it involves is attracting 10,000 Australian and global companies to sponsor one village each. 10,000 companies sponsoring 10,000 villages. And simply sponsoring it by putting in a solar or hydroelectricity generating plant. And the investment by a company to do that for a village, that can be anywhere from $4,000 to $100,000, depending on the size of the village. And the difference this makes to that village of having electricity from a solar facility, or if it's on a river, a hydroelectricity generator, is remarkable. The evidence is overwhelming. And so I saw that this needs to be done. I saw that I could, because I saw the value of electricity in a village that doesn't have electricity. Same applies in other parts of Asia, in South America, in Africa. One village at a time. And just imagine what's going to happen if there were 5 villages side by side that had electricity from solar. They could string a line up, a few electricity poles, and share their electricity. The villagers can all charge their mobile phones. The difference in their lives is enormous. I spend time trying to solve this problem that I see needs to be solved because it will make a massive difference to our planet. What is it that you see needs to be done? What is it that no one else can see? And the fact that you see it, it then requires you to say, I'll go out and do something rather than relying on somebody else to do it. That then takes courage. You then need to be passionate about it. And then you say, well, I'm not good enough to do it. Well, none of us are good enough to do it. We need to then attract the people around us that can help us to implement the vision that we have. In Australia, there are many examples of individuals who, through their own circumstances, perhaps of domestic violence, perhaps of losing a loved one in a car accident, have initiated action that has led to improvement. That's the way humanity progresses. Each one of us sees uniquely, we take the next step, it makes life better. And life is getting better until politicians and governments start to become corrupted and not tell the truth, but that's another story. That's why I'm involved in a number of organisations to prevent government overreach, to preserve our human freedoms. But I urge you to think about what it is that you'd love to see happen and then start to take the steps to make that happen. And you could do that in various ways, including just giving money to those who are doing what you see needs to be done. So let me share some resources with you on this, and a quote that beautifully encompasses, and I want to share with you this week, the challenge of doing what you see needs to be done, is the quote from A Course in Miracles, quoted by Marianne Williamson and also by Nelson Mandela at his inauguration speech. Many of you have heard it, and it goes like this: our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulously? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. Think about that. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. You see, if you are powerful beyond measure, the reason why it's the deepest fear is because if you're powerful beyond measure, then you have no excuse for not pursuing what you see needs to be done. A book that I recommend to you is by Vernon Coleman. Julie ordered it recently. His website is magnificent. It's called Agenda 21. And Vernon Coleman wrote his books, and there's a number of them at his website, vernoncoleman.com, that he sees the problems that our world is facing, and he has written these books, including Agenda 21, which is a horrific totalitarian view of the future of our planet. I urge you, if you're interested in the threats that are facing us, to read that book. My health tip for you this week is, in the context of this alleged pandemic, is breathing exercises. There is a wonderful man on YouTube with wonderful lessons called Wim Hof, but how you breathe has a massive impact on your health. There are different ways to breathe. There are box breathing exercises. I urge you to look into that question, and as your lung capacity improves, your risks of many health problems diminish. My spiritual tip for you is to consider, in the context of what do you see needs to be done, what community groups around you, or indeed in your country, are doing things similarly to what you see needs to be done. Think about, look for community groups with which you can get involved. That is a spiritual exercise. My song for the week is somewhat spiritually, in fact very spiritually based. It's the prayer of St. Francis, and the reason why I recommend it to you, its first line is, "Make me a channel of your peace, where there is hatred let me bring your love." And we are in a world that the political leaders are looking to create division. We, through awareness, must fight against that division. Each one of us is human. We are one species, Homo sapiens. The whole idea of races is such a nonsense when you look into the science of it. Each one of us is a weirdo, 8 billion weirdos, but we're one species of Homo sapiens. To then create these divisions between us, and that's what Buckminster Fuller was committed to, making the planet work for everybody. It won't work for everybody if there is the jabbed and the unjabbed, if we have medical apartheid. And what I find this beautiful prayer and then put into a song available on YouTube really puts me into a very prayerful, caring, loving space. If you want to be put into that space, have a listen to that prayer. Prayer of St. Francis, easily findable. In fact, we might even put it in the show notes. You never know if our producer is willing to do that. And lastly, an appropriate joke, you see. Here's someone who saw what needed to be done, and that wasn't to stop me drinking coffee, but was a preacher who was on the temperance journey. Let's wipe out alcohol, you see. That's what he said. That's what he saw needed to be done. So the preacher was completing a temperance sermon with great expression. He said, if I had all the beer in the world, I'd take it down and throw it in the river. With even greater emphasis, he said, and if I had all the wine in the world, I'd take it and throw it into the river. And then finally, he said, and if I had all the whiskey in the world, I'd take it and throw it into the river. He sat down. The song leader then stood up very cautiously and announced with a smile, for our closing song, let us sing hymn number 364, Shall We Gather at the River? I love it, I love it, I love it. So, think about how today's big idea can make a difference to your life. What is it that you see needs to be done? Are you willing to start to pursue that journey? I hope I am inspiring you, educating you, provoking you to discover and pursue what makes your life worth living, what you are passionate about, what do you want to be doing, so that every morning when you wake up, you feel successful. I again invite you to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. My books are available, Passionate People Produce, Passionate Performance. And again, subscribe to this YouTube or podcast, depending on how you're watching or listening, and please share with your family, friends, and work colleagues. And until next week, may your week be filled with the joy of pursuing passion, of embracing the challenges that befall you, and that you've particularly embraced the challenge of looking for the next contribution that you want to make in your journey of experiencing this life that we've been given, this incredibly short space of time that we are here on this planet. Thanks for being with us. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.